Coming up in the news tonight, 4 new cases of COVID-19 confirmed in the Bahamas. The local COVID-19 task force kicking into high gear. And a private air carrier shutting down domestic flights. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Megan Shepard. Thank you so much for tuning in. Topping news, COVID-19 cases rising in the country. The latest statistics released during the Ministry of Health's press conference, which wrapped up a short time ago in the nation's capital, while emphasizing that social distancing is key to curbing this deadly virus. The Minister of Health urged persons around the country to adhere to advice given by the authorities. Despite the government of the Bahamas implementing strict emergency orders to prevent the spread of COVID-19, in the most recent press conference this afternoon, the Minister of Health, the Honorable Dr. Dwayne Sands, confirmed 4 additional cases of COVID-19 in the Bahamas.
The Ministry of Health has confirmed 9 cases of the virus in the Bahamas. The first 4 previously announced cases are in New Providence. The 5th case is in Grand Bahama and had no significant travel history. The most recently confirmed 4 cases are in New Providence. Only 1 had recent travel history, and that case had traveled to the Dominican Republic on the 13th of March.
He shares an update on the condition of the infected persons in the 5 previously confirmed cases.
All of the most recently confirmed 4 cases are in home isolation, and they are being closely monitored by healthcare professionals. They do not require hospitalization at this time. The first case has been discharged from hospital, and health officials continue to follow the condition of the 3 other COVID-19 positive cases in New Providence and the single case in Grand Bahama, who all remain in isolation at home and do not require hospitalization at this time. They are in stable condition.
He notes that intense contact tracing is underway for the confirmed patients. Minister Sands emphasizing the importance of listening to and following the advice of medical professionals, as it is key to slowing the spread of the virus. He says staying inside could save your life or the life of someone you love. He explains how the virus is transmitted.
There is currently no vaccine for COVID-19. So the best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to the virus. COVID-19 is primarily spread between people who are in close contact with each other through respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs or sneezes. These droplets can land in the eyes, mouth, or nose of others. They can also land on nearby surfaces. When you touch these surfaces and put your hands in your eyes, mouth, or nose, you can infect yourself. So hand hygiene is crucial to success in the fight against coronavirus.
Minister Sands continued to thank medical professionals for their tireless efforts in this fight. He gave an update on the number of necessary medical supplies in the country.
At this time, 175 people have been tested in the Bahamas for COVID-19, following agreed international protocols. To date, we have some 2,300 testing kits on the island. More than 60 ventilators are here, and more are on the way to increase our current capacity. Thousands of PPE kits have been ordered to boost the supplies that we already have in stock. 3,000 additional are expected on the ground on Monday, and a further 4,000 will be here by the end of next week.
And again, there are 8 confirmed cases in New Providence and 1 confirmed case in Grand Bahama. While as Grand Bahamians face the reality of the COVID-19 virus on island, Medical professionals are emphasizing the significance of social distancing and isolation. In this report, the chairperson of the Grand Bahamas COVID-19 Task Force tells our news team about the importance of remaining at home and utilizing the protocols put in place by the government and medical professionals. The Grand Bahama Health Services COVID-19 Task Force operating in high gear now that the local health facility is dealing with the virus head-on. Chairperson Dr. Frank Bartlett admonishing residents to adhere to the emergency orders and more specifically social distancing. If you are feeling ill, Dr. Bartlett says it is essential to stay away from the hospital, but rather call the hotlines set up by medical professionals.
We ask specific questions about travel history, what your symptoms are. We give you directives or recommendations as to where you should access the healthcare system. If you would notice in the public clinics, even at the Rand Memorial Hospital, we configured the patient flow. So you will see tents at all of the establishments that are still offering services. The goal is to screen everyone outside of that hospital or that clinic. We identify persons with respiratory symptoms. We appraise whether or not they have a relevant travel history. And one of the big challenges we have now is that a lot of our cases may not necessarily have a relevant travel history, so the index of suspicion has to be maintained at a high level for all of the different persons.
Now, the Minister of Health announced recently that the Cancer Center will be used to handle COVID-19 cases. Dr. Bartlett adds that they are still in the process of identifying more centers, but that comes with its fair share of challenges.
We have 3 centers that have been evaluated. We're in the process now of making sure all of the equipment, all of the logistical things that we need to have in place are in place. We are looking at our staffing. We're looking at all of the different things we need to actually respond to. We have a challenge in the fact that we have more than one isolation center. It becomes an issue now because we have to now look at how we properly staff those. We have a specific order as to which isolation center would be utilized first. And the things we have to get out there again now and how social media works is that we are trying to, again, complete an exercise that is challenging. We're trying to be respectful of those persons who may be housed or taken care of within that institution.
Following the confirmation of Grand Bahama's first case, residents began inquiring as to the identity of the infected person. Dr. Bartlett explains that anonymity is essential during this time as it can create long-term social and economic implications.
Our society, even when we deal with a simple thing as wearing a mask in public, there is a stigma associated with that. Automatically, assumptions are made. A lot of times, assumptions are not the correct ones. If we expose confidential equipment, you have to really sit down and think of the short-term and medium-term implications of what's going to be happening to that person. What is going to happen to that person when they return to that workplace? There's a level of fear, and with all of the inaccuracies, misconceptions, and misinformation we have out there, we still have a group of people, irrespective of what information we put out there, who's still going to maintain their same beliefs, and their fears are going to dictate how they react to those persons. We don't think of it because we're not the one who's necessarily involved with it.
The nationwide 24-hour lockdown and a nightly curfew will have an impact on non-essential workers and business establishments who have had to close their doors and in some cases reduce staff. The government of the Bahamas has established several initiatives in response to the economic downturn to assist those who are most impacted. Our Ramiko Knoll spoke with Acting Financial Secretary Marlon Johnson today about those measures already in place.
For self-employed workers in the tourism sector who would not ordinarily be covered under national insurance, Acting Financial Secretary Marlon Johnson says the government of the Bahamas has provided some assistance. He says upon application, workers under that category can get up to $200 per week for the next 8 weeks.
This would be taxi cab drivers, hair braiders, jet ski operators, tour guides, persons who are employed by themselves or for themselves and have a certain loss of income. The other element of it would have been the $20 million fund that the government would have put in place for small businesses, and that allows small businesses to apply for loans for between $5,000 up to $300,000.
In addition, he says the government has expanded the food and voucher program for hotel and hospitality workers who are still employed but are making less. He says they will be eligible for food vouchers to assist with the purchase of groceries. And for those who were laid off, he says the 13-week unemployment benefit applies.
A person can get up to $335 a week on that particular program for up to 13 weeks. So, and of course, the banks have chipped in by deferring payments, loan payments, mortgage payments for persons who are impacted. Utility companies also water, sewage, and BPL, or allowing persons who have been laid off or who become ill with the coronavirus to get a break on their electricity bill and water, sewage, and defer those until after and then for 3 months.
Now, for those who remain without work as a result of Hurricane Dorian, he says these new initiatives would not apply to you. However, the benefits that were in place since the storm are still in effect.
No, the person who was unemployed since Dorian, remember there are several things that the government would have done there. They would have had an extended unemployment benefit plan, and they have been getting a range of social assistance payments, and those will continue on. Persons who have been impacted by Dorian, they are on the island of Abaco and Grand Bahama. VAT and duty has been eliminated on medical and consumer goods, and so they are running on a separate program to assist them specifically.
Now, we asked Johnson if the initiatives offered in the government's plan could extend beyond the emergency order period, and this is what he says.
What I can say is that the Ministry of Finance is working, presently the team at the Ministry of Finance is looking at the forward projections on anticipation that, whether or not this subsides by early summer, whether it goes into the fall, whether it goes even further. They're looking at various scenarios to see what ought to be the government's response to address any of these particular scenarios. So that's being developed, and then that'll be presented to the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance. He'll take it to Cabinet, and then the government will make an announcement, likely through the budget exercise, as to what the longer-term plan will be.
Rumiko Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Meanwhile, the Bahamas Development Bank offering to suspend loan payments for clients who are in good standing with the bank and who have been negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Bank officials say that while it is anticipated that payments will resume with accrued interest by the end of June, the leniency period will be examined on a case-by-case basis. However, clients who may have a difficulty paying their loans at this time should call the Bahamas Development Bank at 727-2202 or email them at covid19@bdb.gov.bs to discuss their accounts. Also, the process time for clients seeking lending through the government Small Business Relief Program is 4 working days. Business owners are also being encouraged to get assistance through the Small Business Loan Development Center website. More businesses added to the list of exempted businesses under the Emergency Powers COVID-19 number 2. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, announcing those businesses which are allowed to operate outside of the terms of that order. The new additions include businesses in the following categories: fishing and farming, law offices, car rentals, electronic and technical services, janitorial services, pool maintenance and supplies, funeral homes, industrial manufacturers, and security services. The suspension of air services locally and internationally taking place throughout the world. Tonight, the country's largest privately owned air carrier is also announcing plans to shut down domestic flights due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Shashina Rowe-Farquharson reports.
As part of continuing efforts to contain COVID-19, many airline companies around the world are making the difficult decision to temporarily suspend services locally and internationally. Well, Western Airlines also making that decision, and they say as of today, domestic flights have been shut down. Vice President of Operations and General Counsel Shirexia Roll telling our ZNS News team that while it was a difficult decision, it was done with the best interest of their passengers, staff, and the Bahamian people.
So yesterday, at the end of the workday, we secured the aircrafts at their base. And, first thing is that the absolute most important thing to us is the safety of our passengers, of our flight crew and our staff. And so ultimately, I think the good thing about it is that the majority of people are where they need to be, and people are taking the stay-at-home order seriously, which hopefully means we can get, our country back up and running safely.
At this point, she says a date cannot be given as to when flights will resume.
Well, we will be guided by the orders that are to come. We want to be sure that we are making sensible decisions. Of course, because we service many of the outer islands, some of which, we are either the only or one of the only carriers that are operating in there. We certainly had our concerns about individuals at first who needed to return home or who have a critical need to travel. But we want to be guided by what is going on in the country and be guided by our medical professionals. And we'll take everything that we see going forward into consideration as to when to resume flights.
The VP of Operations says a few days after the emergency order was given, there was a decline in travel. However, even as layoffs continue throughout the world as a result of COVID-19, she says there is no plan at this point to lay off their 190 employees.
No, we have no plans on laying off any employees. We have not heard any further extension as yet on the order, even though like many have been hearing that may happen. But we have no plans currently to lay off any employees.
And while many in the aviation industry fear that the economic fallout will be great, Rolls says they are more concerned about the health and safety of the country at this time.
We feel as if we will be strong and we will continue to push forward, and we will resume flights when the time is right, and hopefully that is sometime soon. And will it be a hit? Absolutely. But I don't think I speak for myself when we realize that in times of crisis, this is what makes you. We have to remain faithful. We always say that Western Air is a company created by God. We're not afraid or ashamed to say that. And so we will continue in our faith, as well as we will continue in our actions and make sensible decisions going forward how best to proceed so that the company can continue to provide flight service throughout the Bahamas and wherever we shall expand, hopefully in the future.
Now, Rolls says as a family-owned and operated business, they are extending their prayers to the country at this very difficult time. She also adds that while it is unclear to say when the resumption of services will begin, they will make that announcement on their social media pages. Shashina Wolf-Farquharson, ZNS Network News.
Well, as you take sanitary measures to prevent becoming infected with COVID-19 at home, what about your vehicle? That story straight ahead.